How are you, beautiful ones? Apologies for being a few minutes late. My name is Lucy Shah Jahan, and I am just fucking lit to light up as many women's souls as I can on this planet so that collectively we can be living in our heart space and attracting in, the love of our life, living on purpose, filling up your bank accounts with so much abundance. Because when you can have abundance, why the fuck would you commit to living in scarcity and going without? That's really, really what I stand for, because I know what it's like to live in scarcity and I know what it's like to live in abundance. And it doesn't just magically happen on its own. It happens when you make the decision that you are going to live your best life. Because the truth is, we all get to create life the way that we want it, no matter what's happened to us. It comes down to a decision that you're not going to be a slave to your past, and that you're actually going to be the creator of your future. Fucking hell, it's such potent stuff when you really take that in. Instead of being a slave to the past, what is it actually going to take for you to be the creator of the most lit future that exists for you? So just try that on as more people are coming on. Hi, Marina, how you doing? Bella is amazing. She's just with her daddy next door. So this will be a really quick Q&A because I don't know how long I've got until she's going to need to have the milk bar. I always say the milk bar is now open. So yeah, I'm going to wait for a few more souls to come on, and then I'm going to get into this really juicy conversation about vulnerability. I'll be posing a few questions to you in this Q&A for you to actually go away and answer, because that's what I'm feeling will be the most powerful. And if you have questions about this topic of vulnerability, then hit me while I am here, or when you watch the replay, definitely drop in your comments. I'm more than happy to answer them. Okay, sorry to hear that. Yeah, a lot of people have the flu. Just got to keep up the vitamin C, keep up the hydration, and focus on health and well-being. All right, so I have actually got the topic here. I'm just going to read it out. So today's Q&A, I posted, you've been hurt so many times in the past that being vulnerable with anyone terrifies you. Okay, so just give me some likes if this is you. Now you can't even imagine being vulnerable with someone else, but the scarier and deeper truth is that you don't even know how to be vulnerable with yourself. Now, there's such a misconception with this whole topic of vulnerability. It gets thrown around so casually, like, oh yeah, the amount of women that will come on a call with me and tell me, no, I'm already vulnerable, Lucy, I'm already authentic. I'm like, no, you're not. First of all, you're not vulnerable at all, even with me in this conversation. And this is sister to sister. I can guarantee you, you are not being vulnerable when you're actually with a man, because it's one thing to say that you're vulnerable with your girlfriends, but true vulnerability is actually about being vulnerable in any given situation, no matter who you're with. It's not something that you just selectively use when it suits you. Vulnerability is our superpower as a woman. Yet so many people think that they are being vulnerable when they're not. And that is the first myth that I want to bust. The fact that you're telling yourself that you are already vulnerable in relationships and you've ticked that box off, so it couldn't be that, is exactly where this conversation is going to start. First, I am just going to be in the energy of that. Who here in this community has enough courage to admit that you know that you don't bring your heart to relationships? You know that you don't share your truth when it comes to being with a guy. You know that it feels scary. It feels terrifying, actually, because the last time that you did that, you got rejected, or you weren't met with the love and the space being held for you that you were really wanting. Who can actually, hey Arlene, how are you, hon? Who in this live right now can actually resonate with the fact that, not resonate, but admit that you are not actually being fully vulnerable, which actually means sharing your heart fully in every area of your life? I want to see some comments. I'm actually going to go on a hiatus where I'm not going to speak until I start seeing some interaction with you guys who are live with me right now, because I can do these Q&As in my sleep. I can speak for hours and hours and hours on any topic when it comes to relationships, but I'm more interested in hearing your voice in the comments of what your fears are around being vulnerable and how you're being stopped when it comes to love because of the lack of vulnerability. So I'm just going to pause for a minute. Laura Webb, me, even though I think I am. Beautiful. Monica, Lucy, I can totally relate. Okay, beautiful. So I'm starting to see some interaction. Great. So let me come back to keeping on track with what I wrote down here. So I said the truth is you can't have a soulmate relationship without mastering vulnerability. It's simply not possible. And I'm going to let you into my life and how I used to truly, truly think that I was being vulnerable when it came to love. I'm just going to take myself back because obviously now I am super vulnerable in all my relationships. You know, the women that go through Soul to Soul, they see my vulnerability. The women that in my high-end mastermind, Empress Empire, they know, they see me when I'm joyful. They see me when I haven't got it all together, right? People need to see all of our aspects. Otherwise, we are incredibly one-dimensional. And quite frankly, it's very, very hard to connect properly when you aren't bringing in your heart. No one wants a freaking Barbie doll. I don't mean to look at, I just mean like a doll. No one wants a robot. We are all craving human connection. And in order to have connection, we need to be able to connect with ourselves first. So that actually means being vulnerable with yourself. What do I mean when I say that you need to be vulnerable with yourself? I mean that you need to prioritize yourself. You need to create space for yourself to feel. Yes, I said that 4-letter word, feel. So many of you in here have such a resistance to feeling. I spoke to a beautiful one this morning. She was such a bright light, but so shut down around the heart space. She's been blocking her feelings for as long as she's been alive, really, because it felt really unsafe to feel. So this is the first place that I want you to explore. I want you to go away from this live and really explore for yourself. When did it stop feeling safe for you to actually feel? Whatever that emotion is, to feel sadness, to feel happy. I work with women that are terrified to feel happy. Forget sadness. They can do sadness all day long, but they're like, I can't let myself feel happiness because I'm scared that the joy is going to be taken from me the minute that I start feeling it. So vulnerability is actually you stopping everything and putting the importance on your emotions, your feelings, the connection with your heart that you were given. It's like we're given the most potent, incredible organ, and yet so many of us are doing everything in our power to do anything but feel. It's just such a travesty. It is. It's like people are trying to do life without their heart. And that is the issue. Vulnerability is not you saying to a guy, hey, are you willing to get married? Do you want to have children? Let me tell you about my past. And then just kind of scattergun and autopilot share about your past. That's not vulnerability. That's just checklist. I'm doing my due diligence, asking, I have women all the time saying to me, oh, I'm super vulnerable, Lucy. I'll always tell a guy that I want to have children, or I'll always tell a guy that this and that. I go, yeah, it's all very cerebral, and it's like this. It's not this. Very different energy when we're speaking from our heart space. It is palpable. Our whole energy changes. Our face softens when we're truly going to let someone in. I could be crying my eyes out on the floor right now when I connect to my vulnerability. Now, you do not need to cry your eyes out to be vulnerable. But when you make that decision, you know what? I'm going to start connecting with my heart right now. You will start to operate somewhere in your being and be like, oh, that feels soft, that feels emotional, that feels delicate. Vulnerability is delicate because there's a lot more at stake when you're going to share what's really on your heart with someone, because you may not always like what the response is going to be. Vulnerability takes enormous courage because so many of you are so concerned about being judged and about being rejected that you're not willing to let people see who you really are. So I was going to get to the questions. Yes, opening my heart makes me afraid of getting badly burned. Exactly, Marina. This is so many women. Monica, men are unable to master vulnerability. Ego hinders their ability to be vulnerable with that. Monica, that, my darling one, is a bunch of horse shit. You cannot blanket statement men and put them in a category. I am married to an amazing man who's incredibly vulnerable. He's incredibly masculine, but he's really plugged into his feminine as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't be with him. I would have no capacity to be with him if he was too in his masculine and ego. We would last for about a week. And I used to attract those guys when I was closed, when my heart was closed. But that is just a shitty belief, Monica, that I invite you to kick to the curb right away. You can't just put men all in one category. There's definitely some father stuff with you that needs to be sorted out. And I say that with love. I don't say that to criticize you. I'm saying, darling, you need to get a hold of that belief, because that is not going to get your soulmate relationship. Marina, why would you agree with that? That's not getting you a soulmate relationship either. Hey, Rebecca, how you doing? Hey, Neha. Hey, Taryn. So your fear is revealing your infertility and leukemia. Yeah, we talked about this about a year or two ago. Marina, it's great that you had the courage to share that in here. Thank you for sharing that. Infertility, honey, is a very, very common topic for a lot of women. So first of all, you're not alone. And secondly, a lot of infertility is in the mind. We can actually heal our infertility. Sometimes we need some help, but a lot of the time it's that we've turned our back on our feminine. Now that's a whole other conversation, and I'm not going to go into that now, but it's about you connecting with your heart and your enoughness and getting the right support to shift you out of thinking that you're not enough because of your infertility or because of your leukemia. There are people in wheelchairs that are married right now to the love of their life. Right? Look at freaking Elizabeth Gilbert that married that woman who she knew was dying of cancer. So, you know, while I hear you and acknowledge that that is big for you, and I don't want to minimize that in any way, that's not a reason not to actually start to do the inner work and to, first of all, you accept yourself with having these like infertility and leukemia. You need to accept yourself fully if you expect someone else to. You're actually rejecting yourself and thinking that you're less than worthy and not enough because of having infertility and leukemia, and that's simply not the truth. It's just a story that you're buying into. So there's a lot of work to be done around that, honey. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. So it's time for you to rise above your circumstance. Laura, I was recently dating a vulnerable guy and it was so great, but I had no idea how to be it back. Interesting, Laura. So he was vulnerable, but you weren't back. So if you can post below, why weren't you able to be vulnerable back? What was it? Fear of rejection, fear of being who you are. Let me break it down for you so it's really, really simple. Being vulnerable is being who the fuck you were born to be. You girls in here, so many of you, and I'm going to say this with so much love, you've got this. You're like, I've got this. I don't need to do a lot of work on myself. I've read all these books. I've gone to these workshops. I listen to these podcasts. I'm a really nice person. There's nothing wrong with me. It's the guy. No, sister. You're so disconnected to your heart energy. You're so disconnected to the bigness of your soul. You're not living on purpose. You're not saying yes to your bigness, and you're playing small, and you're not prioritizing how fucking epic you really are. You're living with a big fat lid on, and you're going through the motions of life. So you're not being real with yourself. You're not giving over to your greatness. You're not giving over to your truth. You're not honoring your self-expression. And the thing that you're definitely not doing is you are not feeling your emotions. You're getting through life with big fat blinkers, and what you're more committed to is keeping your heart safe and not feeling, because feeling scares the shit out of you, and it feels too scary to actually go there. And you're like, you know what, if I let myself feel, I might end up on the ground for a week, because the last time I felt, it didn't feel safe, or someone, you know, rejected me or told me that I was too much. So vulnerability is you accepting yourself fully, with the exact weight that you are, with how emotional you are, with how quirky or zany or whatever it is that you are. It's you fully accepting you and having the guts and the courage to let people in. to let people see your insecurities, to let people hear your fears, to also, though, to be able to share your bigness and your huge dreams, because that's really fucking vulnerable as well. Most of the time we keep those things to ourselves because we're like, well, who am I to go and do that? And just say people like put me down for wanting to go and do these big things. That feels too vulnerable and scary. So you just coast along in the lane of mediocrity, all because you don't want to be judged or rejected. My question to you right now is, how does this feel every day for you? Not living to your fullest potential, not being honest with how you feel, not being honest with yourself, looking in the mirror and wondering who the fuck is staring back at you. I've been there. I've had plenty of time looking in the mirror where I was like, I don't fucking know what your name is right now because it sure as shit ain't Lucy. So the reason I can speak so passionately and with so much fucking certainty and conviction is because I have been that woman that was full of shit, that did not know how to spell vulnerability. Yet I was like, no flies on me. I'm vulnerable. I'm authentic. No, I wasn't. I was full of shit, and it was costing me everything in every area of my life. How does a woman go about finding her soulmate relationship? Darling, that's not a question I would just answer like that. There's a whole freaking, stay in this group, go watch my lives. It's not like, hey, you do this, this, and this, and then you get soulmate relationship. But to answer it with this topic right now, Monica, the first thing you got to do is get your heart open. And you've got to up-level your mindset. And the fact that you're thinking that all men don't know how to be vulnerable, right there's a massive, giant, big, fat hole in your mindset right now, because you're looking through the wrong lens, and you're not going to attract in a soulmate relationship by sitting in that victimhood and sitting in that blame of like, oh, it's all the men's fault. You're not taking any responsibility for you. You're just putting it out there with men, and you're not alone. There are a lot of women that do that. There are a lot of men haters out there. But how the fuck are you going to attract in a man if you're hating on them, right? And then you got to look at yourself and go, well, if I was really in love with myself, would I really be looking at men through that view? No, you wouldn't. There's a lot of repressed anger and rage that you're harboring and carrying around men. I can tell you that right now. What else have we got going on in here? Hey, gorgeous Erin, scared of rejection and being myself. That's right, Laura. You are scared of rejection and being yourself. And this is like the collective right now. That's the big, big wound that's in the collective energy right now that I'm doing my best, right, to help as many women as I possibly can in this lifetime when I'm alive, because it was a big wound of mine to be thinking that I wasn't whole and to think that I was too much or not lovable or, terrified of being abandoned. I had all these wounds that used to govern my life, and that was what was keeping me with the wrong men or single. But when I realized, hang on a minute, all of the greatness and the love that I've been seeking is inside of me, that's when I was like, oh shit, okay, I've been rejecting myself. So that's what's happening, Laura, and I can't wait to chat with you. I know you've booked in for a call, so woohoo, I can't wait to chat. Well done you for really taking a stand for yourself, wanting to get support, to want to step up. That's actually very vulnerable. Let me tell you that right now, Laura. You can put that as a new reference for yourself. To even reach out and to say, I want help with this is incredibly vulnerable, where you're like, I haven't got this. I'm not where I want to be. That's really vulnerable. So just FYI, Laura, from what I'm getting from you right now is you are vulnerable just with how you're sharing right now. Monica, what do you do if you opened your heart to a man for 20 years? Honestly, all I can say is, without knowing the backstory, if, first of all, 20 years is way too long to stay with someone if it's not being reciprocated. So just if I'm tuning in off the bat here, there's a wound where you don't feel deep down deserving of love. Otherwise, first of all, you wouldn't stay with a man for 20 years that wasn't giving it back to you. And B, when we are fully in love with who we are and really accept ourselves for everything that we are and everything that we're not, we're able to then receive in someone else that's going to love us exactly where we are. So without knowing any more, that's my feedback, is that you don't actually have that deep, deep, deep self-acceptance and love of self. It might have felt like you were living with an open heart, but I'm guessing very, very strongly that it's coming from lack. Like you were probably overgiving, and it was all coming from lack and wanting to please and wanting to be loved so deeply that you were overcompensating. Laura, Marina. Yes, no, you should never ever be scared to be yourself, but it's easier said than done, Marina, and that's why you're here as well, is because it's one thing for me to say to you, hey, just go and be yourself, but that's useless without actually giving you a roadmap and a process to actually take you into your shadow and into your blind spots and actually heal those, right? It can't just say, hey, be yourself. Like, no one knows what that means. It's like, so my acting teacher said to me, Lucy, you've got to be vulnerable. I'm like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Like, don't just tell me be vulnerable, like, show me how. And when I really got that true vulnerability was just really letting people see me, my acting went from 0 to 100. People could palpably feel the character. They're like, oh my God, I had standing ovations. And it wasn't because I was doing anything magical. It was when I made the decision that, oh shit, I've actually got to bring in my heart. And when I was playing like the grief of the character, I was actually sharing with people my heart, because I was tapping in and plugging into my own grief that I'd experienced in my life, which is vulnerable because we don't want to necessarily be feeling our grief. But I was like, I can't do this character justice unless I actually plug into something that's real inside of me. So it takes guts to be a really good actor, right? And art imitates life, which is why I mentioned when I was acting. Everything that was showing up with me in my acting was showing up in my life. So when my teacher said, technically you're a good actor, but I can't feel you, when I thought about my relationships, I was like, well, technically I'm doing relationships. I'm attracting in these guys. They follow up. They want to take me out. But it never got to that next level. You know, it was always just like, cool, and then they would bounce, or I would bounce because I wasn't getting my needs met. It doesn't really matter who bounced. The fact is there was no heart connection. There was no real intimacy. So when I was like, holy shit, this is actually showing up everywhere in my life, it hit me like a fucking tornado. And I was like, what have I been doing for the last 30 years? Like, I was like, what? And when I actually made the decision that I was going to do everything in my power to open my heart and then keep it open, that is what exponentially had me have this massive up level, which allowed me to then attract in the love of my life. But first, I made it my absolute mission, my absolute priority to put myself first and to feel so many feelings that I had blocked and shut away, and was just like, no, I just want to be positive. I just want to be happy. Yet there was this whole underbelly of unfelt emotion that I had put to the side because I just saw it as, oh, I don't want to be negative, or I don't want to be down. And it's not that. It's called fucking truth. I get so lit by this conversation. Andrea, yes, show me how. Listen, here's the truth. On these Q&As, I'm not even going to do the disservice of just saying, hey, do this and you're going to be vulnerable. It's not like that. I wish it was. It's a process. And that's what I teach in my program, Soul to Soul. So what I'm here to do today, though, is just to talk about what true vulnerability is. And I'll tell you right now what it isn't. Vulnerability is not just telling a man how you want to get your needs met. It's not being upfront about what you want in a relationship without bringing in your heart. But when you actually do the work to deal with the little girl inside of you, because she's the one that's terrified of being vulnerable. She's the one that, as a little girl, went to go and, open her heart and to love with all her heart, or maybe express herself, but it was rejected in some way. And that's why now, whether you're in your 30s or your 40s or your 50s, you struggle with vulnerability because it simply doesn't feel safe. So yes, I can't just be like, hey, this is what you do. You can come and work with me if you really want to, truly change your life and you're committed to the process. Because otherwise it's just me giving out, hey, here's a Band-Aid, and that's what people do. They're like, oh, just do these 5 things and then you're going to, in a day, and then you're going to have a relationship. It doesn't work like that. Now, you can attract in a relationship quickly once you really commit and get the right support. And that's exactly what I did. I was like, do you know what? I don't have it all together. This is when I changed my life. I don't have it all together. I don't even know how to be vulnerable. I don't know what that looks like. I grew up with an amazing mother who was very strong and very independent, who kept saying, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine, when my dad died. So I grew up with, I'm going to be fine. I've got this. And I inherited that. Until I realized, I came to this grinding halt in my 30s and went, this is not working out for me. Like, this is not getting me what I want at all. It's major jazz hands and like public persona and all these different masks. I was like, I don't know who the fuck I am because I wear so many different masks. It's like I have to remember which person I'm going to be today. Can you relate to that? So it's a process, and it can happen really, really quickly when you're with, you know, in a sisterhood with other women that want to rise as well. There is so much vulnerability in my community. I can tell you that much. People just willing to share, oh my God, this is how I really feel. And I've had women say to me, I have never felt more safe in my life to actually share what's on my heart. And they're like, for the first time, I got to see who I really am, and that my emotions are beautiful, and me being vulnerable is beautiful. And my women love me more in this group when I am being real, when I am actually like sharing my truth. That's what vulnerability is. What does a woman do? She was in a relationship for 20 years that was arranged yet totally one-sided, where he wanted to. Okay, so that's different, Monica. So if that was an arranged marriage yet totally one-sided, where he wanted nothing to do with being open, you're with the wrong guy, honey. You know, being in a arranged relationship, I'm not saying that they can't work, because I know some people have success with those. But for the most part, you know, doesn't matter what culture you're from, because I work with a lot of Indian women, Bengalis, Muslim, Orthodox Jewish. I work with anyone, right? The common denominator is our greatness lives inside of us, and we all get to choose the life that we're out to create. And you can blame religion, you can blame your past, you can blame your parents, but at the end of the day, all of that shit is just blocking you from creating life the way that you want it. And you got to get that you are the creator. So you got to ask yourself why the hell you would stick around in a relationship with a man that does not want to give you what you want. That's a question I'm going to put to you. What? Because it's better than being on your own? No, it's not. It's more lonely being in the wrong relationship than actually being on your own. Being there, it's shit. So really, I'm going to go because my little girl has just come out. But true vulnerability is a journey of you coming home to yourself, to your truth, to who you really, really are. And so many of us women in the world are doing anything but that. Like for me, I was doing anything but being vulnerable. I knew how to show up at a party. I knew how to do a good job, you know, in the corporate world. I knew how to show up in a way that I was able to get paid, in a way that I was able to have some cool friends. But to actually show up as me with my heart open in a relationship felt like the scariest thing on the planet, because my little girl was hurt so badly when my father died instantly when I was 8, that I remember saying, I will never, ever let myself love someone that much again, because it just isn't safe. He got taken away from me. And it was that little girl that I had to go and do a lot of the work on. Thank God I did. Otherwise I wouldn't be with this guy and have this beautiful daughter, because I was so paralyzed with the fear of loss and the fear of rejection and the fear of abandonment. And I know there's so much of that in this group. Hey, gorgeous Danny. Hey, beautiful, beautiful. My pleasure, Monica. My pleasure, Laura. Come back and watch this as well, because there's so much for you to get from this conversation. And it is my absolute fucking mission to help open as many hearts as possible. At the end of the day, you are the creator, and you already have this greatness inside of you. You already have a whole heart. I want you to hear that. Your heart is whole, but you're living out of a lens that is keeping you living at this much of you, like 20% of you if you're even lucky. And it's because you are so committed to staying safe because of this fear of rejection that is holding you back in every area of your life. You know what I'm going to say? Okay, big fucking deal, you've been hurt. We've all been hurt. I've been hurt many, many, many times, right? I know hurt and death like the back of my hand. I grew up with a lot of death around me in my family from a very young age. So that's why I built up this like wall after wall after wall of protection, because love just felt really scary. So I so get it. At the same token, it's irrelevant whether you've been hurt. What I want to ask you is, when is it going to be time for you to say, you know what, I've got a future that I can create right now. I'm sick of playing the victim. I'm sick of being left behind. I'm sick of not being the chosen one. I'm sick of going to bed alone. If you are, I'm sick of feeling anxious and worrying about dying alone or not being able to have children. When you get sick and tired of being sick and tired of not having what you want, then you'll make the change and do whatever it's going to take to step up. And I cannot wait to take your hand when you're ready. But one thing I'll tell you is I don't work with victims. I don't work with women that would rather walk through the mud. I only work with women that are committed to doing whatever the fuck it's going to take to get into the world and to step into the bigness of who you are, because that's what the world needs right now. We don't need more people complaining. We don't need more people blaming. We don't need more woe is fucking me. We need women stepping into their power, owning their voice, speaking up, sharing their heart, having orgasms on tap, creating children if that's what you want, or getting out there and fucking making a difference and using the gifts inside of you. And the only way that we can get there is by giving over and doing the work to get your heart open and to be vulnerable so that we can actually connect with each other. Because when we're not vulnerable, you know, if you're out there and you're not being vulnerable, then men can't connect with you. They may as well go out with a plank of wood. That's how you're showing up. The same frequency as a plank of fucking wood. No one wants to date a plank of wood. I don't want to date a plank of wood, and no one wanted to date me when I was being a plank of wood, right? I went out with my big eyelashes and my hair was done and my earrings were on, but they were dealing with a plank of wood because I was only going in and giving them this much. And so men used to keep leaving because they're like, well, we like you, but I don't know, like just can't get to you. And so many of you are like, you're getting around thinking that it's so fucking awesome being independent, but independence is you basically saying, I've got this. There's all this speak about being a boss lady and being independent and all being self-sufficient. Listen to the word independent means independent, means I don't need anyone. I've got this. Interdependent is what you want. Being able to coexist with someone in a relationship where you fuse and blend together instead of being on two separate islands. Yes, you need to bring in 100% and your other half will bring in 100%. But what's going to fuse you together beautifully is your open hearts. I see so many people, even in like marriages, that they're just so independent. They're living separate lives. They're not connecting. They're not experiencing intimacy. They're just coexisting together like flatmates. That's not why I'm hosting this community. I'm hosting this community because I know what a soulmate relationship feels like, and I wouldn't fucking trade it for anything. It's vulnerable. It's real. It's scary as fuck because I love this guy more every single day that I am alive. There's nothing safe about love. But love is the highest currency. And when you allow love into your life, it's going to spill into the other areas of your life, and it is going to bring so much magic and so much richness to your life that you're going to wonder why the fuck you spent so many years standing in your own way. That is the end of my Q&A. Been so great to hang out with you girls. Hey, Rebecca. And I'll see you next week. And obviously, if you're ready to really deal with this, reach out to Charlotte. She's in this community, Charlotte Barnes, or, you know, book a breakthrough call with my team. And I can't wait to serve you all the way to the biggest version of yourself and to get that heart open and unleash you into the world with all my other soul sisters who are fucking living their best life. Because why the hell are we alive? We're not here to suffer. That suffering's a choice. We're here with this gift of life to fucking live it to its fullest. That is a choice. And you all have a choice to step up. And I invite you to. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Bye, beautiful ones.